So I'm sure you heard the IRS plans to hire 87,000 new employees. But the good news is they're going to make money on that. Well, there's only one way for that to happen. So the real question is, who's the next target for the IRS audits? And my guess is it might not be who you think it is.
This is The Rare Advisor, proud to be a part of the Advisor Advancement Network and home of a business model supercharged by recurring and repeatable events. Your host is Mike Walters, CEO of USA Financial. He is an investment advisor representative of and securities are offered through USA Financial Securities, member FINRA SIPC, a registered investment advisor.
So you've already heard they're hiring 87,000 new IRS employees. But don't worry. You're not going to get audited, at least according to our government. Well, we all know that's not true. Audits are going to jump. It's been across the board. The whole idea is it's like IRS on commission, right? We're going to hire all these people, and they're going to bring in more revenue than what the government has to pay them in salaries. At least that's the way it's supposed to work. So what are they saying? Right now they're saying that don't worry, the mass public, because we're only going to be upping the audits on the wealthy people. Well, first of all, probably not true. The skeptic in me, correct? Secondly, there's an issue about what is the definition of wealthy. And thirdly, if you're truly targeting the actual, what I'll call wealthy or ultra wealthy, or you're targeting corporations, well, guess what? Those people use really smart CPAs and really smart tax attorneys to file their taxes, and they're going to take advantage of the way the rules are written, live by those rules, and defend themselves according to those rules. So most likely, if the IRS is truly going to try to create an ROI relationship, or a return on investment relationship, between the hiring of 87,000 new IRS agents and the ability to capture revenues, taxes that were supposed to be paid to the government but were not, well, they're likely going to want to go after the low-hanging fruit. So the low-hanging fruit is not going to be someone who's lawyered up and who's got a bank of CPAs on their side. They're probably going to go after someone a little differently, which is why financial planning and estate planning is so unbelievably crucial as we move forward and march forward through time. It's why we all do what we do. It's why we are such an advocate for our customers. We want to play by the rules, but we also want to be respectful of the rules and have those rules be respectful of our clientele. So it's really important to understand who is going to potentially get targeted. Or maybe a better way to say it is, let's assume we're all going to get targeted. Kiplinger came out in August 12th with an article titled, "Are You Rich? The Answer May Surprise You." So everyone has a different perspective of that, right? But if we're going to, quote, target the wealthy for these audits, then we got to look at where's the wealth at. So what they tell us is the top 2% of our population in terms of net worth is at just under $2.5 million of total net worth for the top 2%. The top 5% are at $1 million of net worth. The top 10% are at $850,000 of net worth. And the top 50% are at just a little over $500,000 of net worth. So my concern would be that people take a lot of liberty with the idea of categorization of things like wealth, meaning that people tend to think when they target the wealthy, they're not targeting them. But the reality is they probably are. So the IRS, to put this in perspective, I just Googled this stuff up. You can go find it yourself. But here we are, obviously the IRS is trying to downplay the idea of hiring 87,000 new people. And this graph is right off the IRS website itself. Right now, as of the end of 2021 anyway, they had less than 80,000 employees. So to go from 80,000 to 87,000, they're going to over double. Now, I've heard some political spin about the concept of, well, there's some attrition in there and so on. Well, of course there is. But if you're at 80 now and you're talking about hiring 87, my guess is the number's going to get a little bigger. Then we look over here. Here's where we stand. So if the government's being run like your household or if the government's being run like a business. Basically, it had just over $4 trillion of revenue come in 2021, the green. And then the spending was $6.8 trillion. So $4 trillion comes in, $6.8 trillion goes out. If it's a business, you're in trouble. If it's a household, you're in trouble, but it's the government. So we run a shortage of just under $2.8 trillion for the year, which then gets stacked on top of the existing national debt. And the existing national debt is now at an all-time high of $28 trillion. So again, our revenue coming in, our expenses going out, our deficit, our shortfall, and then the fact that we've got a $28 trillion overall national debt. So if you're trying to say we're going to hire new IRS representation so that we can increase the revenues to the IRS, you have to target those revenue sources. So, again, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm just going to call it like I see it. If you're dealing with IRS on commission and they're targeting the low-hanging fruit, I don't think the low-hanging fruit is going to be the ultra-wealthy. I think the low-hanging fruit is going to be some of the folks that Kiplinger is telling us are in the top, let's say, half or even the top 10%. So the top 10% has $1 million of net worth. Who has $1 million of net worth? Well, probably your neighbor who packed full their 401k over a lifetime, has a debt-free home that they paid off on a 30-year mortgage and is now maybe even semi-retired, working to stay busy. That's $1 million in net worth. So again, just put it in perspective, and more importantly, plan first, invest second. Be smart.
This information is for licensed financial professionals only and is not intended for use in soliciting sales from the public. The views expressed represent the opinions of the presenter or their featured guest, not necessarily those of USA Financial or its affiliated subsidiaries. Industry references are generic and not intended to represent actions or beliefs of any individual or entity. Content is only presented to illustrate general principles, beliefs, or ideas and should not be construed as legal or regulatory advice. Trademark and copyright protected. USA Financial and Affiliates.